We are basically doing 17 days and we're talking about 17 SDGs. And today, well, we basically are going to talk about peace, justice, and strong institutions. And if you've been following us, we every day have a guest that talks about the initiative and also talk about the SDG. Now I'm going to give the word to Radia, that happens to be a strategist, a futurist, and she has this theory about ex-human, basically that talks about coevolution between humans and machines. So, good morning, Radia. How are you? Good morning, Mexico. How are you?
Good morning to you all. Good morning, Mexico. Good afternoon, New York City, and all my friends here in the East Coast. I am excited to on our 17 at 17 that we have spent the last, God, I think it has been 2 weeks or so, counting what I call counting up, 17 days. What does that even mean? If you've been, I like to spend this time contextualizing. Let's start with Build and Blaze. What is it? Build and Blaze is an organization a lot of our time with large technologies impact organizational strategy historically from a tool perspective. So what happens when you hear blockchain is you think, oh great, others are using this tool, I should be as well. What we are seeking, all of that thinking, if you will, and evolution is actually an interesting concept. The genesis of the show is the ex-human, and you've heard about that a lot, that guy behind me. The ex-human is a theory that I came up with a couple of years ago in 2017. Talk about what I saw as a coevolution of human and machine. But the study that led me to that was all about what we do at Build and Blaze. It was about looking at the impacts of technology on organizations as disruption. And it was like these disruptions, the fourth industrial revolution, AI, robotics, all these people, business. What do we do from a change management perspective, we asked. What I realized is that wasn't what was happening at all. It was an evolution. We, humanity, were changing. It wasn't just the technology that was disrupting with the technology. Now, one would, since the prehistoric human of many tools, fire, all these pieces allowed us to evolve with technology. What I believe, though, is that the last 50 years has been different. Since the lunar, it changed, I think, our perspective, our changed the machines. The machines started becoming smarter, more autonomous. And one of the things about those machines to me is that because they became this, I started to call them X-machines, because they became almost an extension of us versus a part of this theory of this coevolution is more powerful than any human being that has ever lived. And that leads us directly to the General at the United Nations. Secretary General of the United Nations, a defining year to combat runaway climate change, to solve these here at Build and Blaze. And we thought, hey, if this was going to be a defining year, what would be different? We decided that different could be nation. How do we bring this to everyone? In my mind, it was information. So let's define them. Sustainable Development Goals. You may or may not have are 17 goals that were adopted just a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. 2015, to solve the world's greatest challenges. In short, 193 member states adopted what is called the 2030 Agenda. A set of goals. Today I won't do my count up to the goals. I usually wait to the goal we are at today. But we have a couple of guests and I want to make sure we won't do that. Tomorrow, however, when we're talking about SDG 17 and we're getting to partnership for the goals. But today, what do we count up? That's peace, justice, and strong institutions. What I would like to do for a few minutes is to talk means. What is this goal, SDG 16? The goal is quite simple. It is a goal that says all humans should expect to live and should not live in fear. That seems quite simple, but as we all know, quite a few of us don't live in such societies. And sadly, too many of us do live in fear. First and foremost, reduce violence, including violent religion. Just about governments violent towards one another. This isn't an external force like some of the goals that we've talked about before. This is something that is completely within our control. We can certainly choose not to kill one another. Second element of this is ending abuse, exploitation, and torture of children. I would add here just vulnerable populations, people with disabilities, etc. And then promoting the rule of law goes hand in hand with that. Access to justice, hand in hand with that. Reducing corruption, bribery, developing effective, accountable, and transparent institutions. Right now in the United States is an inquiry around impeachment of our current head of state. At least some kind of effort. That's how institutions should work. There should be the ability for checks and balances, and we're seeing some of that play out. And there are other pieces that one wouldn't think about in certain countries. Provide registration. A lot of trafficking happened as a result of people not having legal identity. When I was at the United Nations, one of the things we did was ID 2020, where we brought in a blockchain firm along with organizations like Microsoft through blockchain, so that everybody did not, yes, you exist, yes, you're a person, and this is your name, and this is where you're from, because one of the ways in which people are trapped, you are in essence nobody. And if you're a kid, or maybe even a woman in some nations, someone can pass you off as theirs. I'm not going to delve in any further, lots more to say. Has given us a little context to get our conversation started today. And we have two guests on the protocol that conversation today. So I'll pass this over to you, Mayra, and we can.
To give us a picture of what is happening right now. And I'm going to introduce my two guests for today. The first one is Fernando Gallardo. He's CEO at Hackademy, by providing a full training to students. And I invited him because I think that his initiative, his work basically ends with violence in a way that work to empower, to develop in different countries and not in different cities ends with violence, because if you live in a, he's going to talk more about that, but if we live like in a city that is full of violence, it's very hard for us to find work. So what we do, or what young youth do, is they go on, they choose narco, no, they instead of studying. So what he does to work, to empower, to have a different life, not to choose violence. So that's why we invited him, and board member at Kybernus, and he's co-author of a workshop of culture and peace and security measures for children. And as you were saying, Radia, one of the goals for this, the UN said, 8 in 10 children suffer from violence at home. So we have two these wonderful guests, and I'd like to start with Fernando. So maybe he can give us a bigger picture.
Hackademy, it's a 14 weeks bootcamp where they specialize in one technology, backend, with admin, and other tips. Which they get assessment with people who have 10 years experience in technology, different companies, GitHub, Microsoft, so many others. We bring work opportunities to these small cities outside Guadalajara, Mexico City, Monterrey, and we think when we bring this training, this opportunity, we give the student opportunity to choose between narco and working in an industry who is creciendo, developing. Mm-hmm. And we see in Culiacán, in Zacatecas, in Oaxaca, who doesn't have these skills, grown up between narco, between violence, and they don't have the tools to back up the students. Un trabajo honorable,
an honest job,
and es un tema económico.
Is it economic matter or public money?
If you are hungry, if you are starving, and you don't have the skills or the tools to get a good job, and you have to move to big city, and in the big city you don't have the tools, you don't have the skills, you become a perfect target to violence, la delincuencia, crime. You have a good, the right skills. If you can work with Microsoft in the US, you can work Alibaba in Asia, you can grow your community and you can share your knowledge, you can share these opportunities, and you are not anymore a target to the violence.
And for crime organizations, yes. That is a very important target in Mexico for youth that lives in small cities. For crime organizations are the perfect target, right?
Mhm.
If they don't have the right path to go. So thank you, Fernando. We're coming back with you. Miguel, I was talking about, and Radia was talking about ending violence. That is one of the targets of this SDG.
Yeah.
And you work very close with a work. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of context before that. Mexico is a very complicated country, and we have a lot of violent events. But just so you know, in 2018 we had 33 and 400 people killed, which is the most violent year in history since we began. We're in September, we're October now, in 2017, and so far there's 98 to 99 killings every day, which gives us the number of 23,700. So it's a big problem. But what about children? Well, last year, almost, and just so you have an idea of what this number represents, 4.9. This is a terrible number, but it gets worse. And it gets worse when you compare it to other countries like Syria, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, etc. Some of them are at war, and the range of deaths, the daily one, it goes from 1 to 2.7 killings every day. In Mexico, it's 4.9. So you have an idea of what happened in the country. That's not it. There's 40,000 people missing in Mexico. 7,000 of them are under 18. And that number represents almost 20%. That means that 1 out of 5 people missing in Mexico is just in the last presidency of Enrique Peña Nieto, almost 5,000 children were missing. But this is where it gets worse. 3,067 were girls. That's more than 60%. And from that number, 8 out of 10 were between 13 and 17, which gives us a clear picture of what's happening. They're being taken for sexual exploitation, trafficking, pornography, and stuff like that. So it's a very complicated issue. So last year I'm a public policy consultant, and I was working in this project in my home state, Zacatecas, about a qualitative evaluation of a social prevention program in the state, social prevention of violence. And I discovered they didn't have a program that was trying to reduce or stop the killings of young girls in the state. And I was really surprised about this thing. So I got close to the general attorney, and I told him, well, I discovered the numbers have increased from 11 to 27. And his answer was disturbing. He said, that's not much. It's not statistically significant. Well, that's an increase of 237%, something like that. So what are you going to do? Do you have to wait until it becomes a bigger issue? I mean, it's actually, let me give you the exact number. It was 236,000 increase of femicide in the state related to young girls. So I have the facts and I had an answer. So work in Kybernus, development of the country through values, human rights, leadership, the financial support of grupos and líderes. So I have the facts and I had the opportunity to design something and to start a workshop. So that's how it started. It went from something professional to something I do in a culture, peace, and security measures for children. So far, we implemented it 6 times, and for 196 children and 172 teachers, because we believe risk situation. It's also about the environment. So the more information there is, especially with parents or the teachers, the safer they're going to be. So we try to promote a culture of peace, personal mutual care, and a commitment to small and daily actions. Community. So that's how it works, and build this partnership with the Spanish copyright. We're going to start implementing this workshop in Mexico City because of this crisis of violence, and we're trying, and we will turn it into a national project. That's what we want to do. And there's another thing that I think is very important to mention. Within Kybernus, we have a national program, and that gives us also the opportunity to share this experience, to also get feedback and new ideas and stuff that's happening and how they're solving it. And thus the opportunity to implement in different ways that adapt. Yeah, of course, we struggled at the beginning. The institutions that are directly related to the security issue didn't want to engage because it was very hard for politicians and Zacatecas to acknowledge what was happening. But the Institute of Culture began working with us. The software lab began working with us. So they're not related. After we began the implementation, those institutions that are related to the issue began getting close. Of course, we're now a big team. We're very happy because institutions are not just about what the government are going to acknowledge and build. It's also about what we, especially the society, the organized society, can contribute, articulate with others, so we can change reality. So this is an example of a social idea that engaged with and the government, and I think that should be getting the issue and proposing and acting.
Thank you, Miguel. Like a lot of interesting things. Basically, Miguel is working with kids and with environments. And on the other side, Fernando is already in these hot places that we call them here, hot places. That is maybe a place that the narco rules, right? There's no government, but the violence and these crime organizations, they govern like they want to. So Fernando basically is the students by giving the right opportunities, as you say, the right skills, so they don't go also to big cities. They stay in their city, they work for big companies, and we have better environments. So let me go back to you, Radia, with your thoughts.
Thank you so much. What a fascinating set of organizations. I was about taking kids, young people out of a situation where they are targets because they don't have the basic tools for an honest job. I thought that was a very interesting way in which to approach. You're changing the ability for them to live in a peaceful society because they don't feel forced. I think a lot of people who find themselves in crime are justly thought of as caught up in crime. They find themselves in a position where in order for them to survive, they have to, in essence, do what they have to do. And Fernando, what you're doing from a tools perspective, handing the honest job and a good job, a job that they can be proud of, is a really interesting way. And Miguel, my goodness, first of all, he's a man after my own heart with all the data. I am just how much violence rips into a society. The data that he provided gave us that. This is like a war zone, except they're not at war. And the most frightening thing you said, Miguel, was that when you talked to an official who they consider those numbers statistically. These numbers were not statistically. I thought they were shocking. I thought they were. I thought they were stunning. I thought it was the sort of which your organization does. That ability to turn. Mayra knows. Do in your daily life that, you know, from the lazy man's guide, as we were talking about, right? Like from your couch to your office to whatever you're doing to change the way we live. And we were talking about trash, and a huge company's trash. And it feels like it's just a company that is destroying our environment when we were talking about life underwater, below water, for example. But as it turns out, does not have that level of footprint, the amount that would rise to this context of, oh my God, that one person is destroying our planet. That's not the case at all. But each and every one of us is a lot of people. And what each and every one of us can do together when marshaled can be horrible or it can be wonderful. So we could throw our trash, and between all of us, we can that feed us both on exactly what that contribute to a culture of peace. And Miguel, I really like the way you ended when you look to the institutions. You know, I started out the show talking about the impeachment process, which is a governmental process. Handling that. And that is absolutely true. But we do have a role to play. Our role was when we voted for the people who were in that seat that are handling. You're saying, Miguel, is even closer. You're saying it's not just by your vote. At the beginning of the show, it's your choice not to do things that are violent. One another, and what Fernando's organization is doing for you, and I like the name Hackademy, is creating, take you away from that best I can do. Now we're almost at the bottom of the hour here, 2 minutes to the end of the show. So from a close, I'm going to give up my time, throw it back. Statement with our appreciation for joining us today. I thought this was a really interesting conversation. Looking forward to SDG 17. Thank you.
Thank you, Radia. Let me go back with Fernando. Maybe he has a closing statement to make.
We believe in education. We believe in that education is the door to better opportunities, to a better society, to better all. No? We believe that the knowledge and the opportunity them to small cities where there are too many talent, there are too many needs, and there are too many opportunities. And really, we think when we share our knowledge, we share our goals to other people, young people, older. We can build a better society, peace society, and we we will drop down those numbers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. Miguel.
Very quickly, we're talking about the SDG 16, Peace, Justice, and Strong Institutions, and I just wanted to share the key words we use in this workshop of culture, peace, and security measures, which are involvement, freedom, solidarity, reciprocal help, and mutual respect. I think those are the main ingredients to build institutions and to keep them safe and to make them there for our future and the future of Mexico.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Fernando. That's it for today, my dear TV. Let me just share a quick statement. Fernando also makes a hackathon with NASA. So you should follow. Is with the young people, right? With children or also teenagers?
Children, teenagers, moms, dads,
Okay.
grandpas.
So basically,
Change
he
the
works.
context.
He basically works with all ages at NASA. When happens? When is that?
2 weeks from now.
So let's follow him. Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Fernando, again.
Thank you.
And thank you, friends. Don't forget to follow us at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are Build a Blaze, Hackademy.
Kybernus.
To use the hashtag BNBNX to make tomorrow with the last SDG. This is not it. We're going to work one more year, so